Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to say, give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone, who are teaching us truth and sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim and Yahwath that are also listening. Brakat the Yahweh, Brakat the Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Brakat them. So, take a look at prophecy in the news, and of course, the last time I did this, I actually read articles. They had taken down my fucking video because it was deemed as hate speech, as they're doing to a lot of these videos. Which to hate something means to not like what's going on, to speak against. Well, antimedia.com is one of the big ones that they're trying to shut down, but this is another article here. And this does not make the deep state, the Zionists, Amalek, look too good. Trump suggests he ordered Soleimani killing for saying bad things about our country. Well, we here over here also say bad things, Hey, man, good. Death to America? How often do we say that? We say wah ba ba ba, all the time, because the only way we're going to go to heaven, which is the next kingdom, is by the taking down of this kingdom, which all these nations are being gathered in the valley of Yehoshaphat. Adding more to the ever-evolving rationale for the January 3rd Qasem Soleimani killing, which has brought the Middle East to the brink of a major war, President Trump told Republic donors Friday night that the IRGC Quds Force chief was saying bad things about the U.S. before his death. Oh, yeah, okay, so, alright, so, bad, what do they call it, hate speech, right? So, so, what are they going to do? Airstrike me? Because that seems to be what this Hedgemony does, right? They'll airstrike you if you say bad things about it. Well, I've been saying bad things for a long time. Go ahead and airstrike me. I don't give a shit. Fuck America. I can't wait till it's fucking gone. High-dollar donors were gathered for a fundraiser at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, where Trump offered a play-by-play of sorts surrounding the decision-making behind the admittedly bold and risky move to strike the elite Iranian military leader via drone as he passed through Baghdad's international airport. Soleimani was saying bad things about our country prior to the U.S. taking action, Trump described of his decision. How much of this shit do we have to listen to? Trump was quoted as saying in audio of the event obtained by CNN. How much are we going to listen to? The president continues suggesting that Soleimani's anti-American incentives were ultimately a convincing enough reason to sway Trump toward issuing the final order. Well, Trump really wouldn't like what I have to say, or anybody else here at Great Millstone then. Trump further admitted to the killing shook up the world, given that from the perspective of Iran and its allies, he was supposed to be invincible. Yeah, so all that macho boasting. Nonetheless, though, what this has done, though, is it has gotten all these countries together to take a proverb against Amalek, to take a bigger proverb against Esau, Edom. However, like with prior official statements surrounding the controversial military operation, which subsequently triggered a move in Iraqi parliament to boot American forces from the country, no specific evidence was offered that Soleimani was an imminent threat to U.S. national security in the region. Previously, contradictory statements have come out of the administration saying U.S. embassies in the region were under threat of bombing. Oh, yeah, so, the rhetoric could never be proved. But there's more. Let's see. Let's go ahead and read this, since it is anti-media that they really don't like. Trump's true motives in Iraq, what you're not being told. Since the U.S. killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani and Iraqi militia leader Abu Mahdi and al-Mahdi's earlier this month, the official narrative has held that their deaths were necessary to prevent a vague, yet allegedly imminent threat of violence towards Americans. Though President Trump has since claimed whether or not Soleimani or his Iraqi allies pose an imminent threat doesn't really matter. Yeah, because, you say something bad, you can get bombed. But, I might say blah, 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 blah. And I've said it on numerous occasions. I think that we all do here at Great Millstone. So, go ahead, send your drones. It just shows how much of a fucking coward you are, you piece of shit. While the situation between Iran, Iraq, and the U.S. appears to have de-escalated subsequently, at least for now, it is worth revisiting the lead-up to the recent U.S.-Iraq-Iran tensions up to the Trump-mandated killing of Soleimani and Abu Mahdi al-Mahdi in order to understand one of the most overlooked yet relevant drivers behind Trump's current policy with respect to Iraq, preventing China from expanding its foothold in the Middle East. Indeed, it has been alleged that even the timing of Soleimani's assassination was directly related to his diplomatic role in Iraq and his push to help Iraq secure its oil independence, beginning with the implementation of a new massive oil deal with China. So, pretty much, though, this is the real reason behind it. Well, recent rhetoric in the media has dwelled on the extent of Iran's influence in Iraq. China's recent dealings with Iraq, particularly in its oil sector, are to blame for much of what has transpired in Iraq in recent months, at least according to Iraq's Prime Minister Abu Mahdi, who is currently serving in a caretaker role. You see, really, it's about this trade war. It's really about the hegemony of America that is falling, Babylon the Great has fallen, Are you hearing these words echo? Because this is the year of prophecy, so we're seeing it come to pass. Much of the U.S. pressure exerted on Iraq's government with respect to China has reportedly taken place covertly and behind closed doors, keeping the Trump administration concerns over China's growing ties to Iraq largely out of public law, perhaps over concerns that a public scuffle could exacerbate the U.S.-China trade war and endanger efforts to resolve it. Yet, whatever the reasons may be, evidence strongly suggests that the U.S. is equally concerned about China's presence in Iraq as it is with Iran's. This is because China has the means and the ability to dramatically undermine not only the U.S. control over Iraq's oil sector, but the entire petrodollar system on which the U.S. status as both a financial and military superpower directly depends. So, it's right there in our faces. But wait, there's more out of Press TV. And this article reads, the day of U.S. global hegemony are numbered. And this is from a scholar, and this is on Sunday, January 19 at 3:33 p.m. a.m. Yeah, you see them burning the Yankee swastika. U.S. President Trump brazen America First foreign policy has opened the door to a new alignment of forces. The days of U.S. global hegemony are numbered, according to Professor Dennis Eder, an American political analyst who has decades-long interest in internal affairs. So these people are telling on themselves, man. Elter, a former professor of anthropology at Carvalho College in Aptos, California, made the remarks in an interview with Press TV on Sunday while commenting on an article published by Business Insider which said the United States' main allies are abandoning Trump as his threats to world leaders have backfired. Trump's decision to assassinate Iranian Major Qasem Soleimani has exposed a growing rift between the U.S. and its historically closest allies in Europe, especially in the UK. According to the analysis, the attack was met with a remarkable level of criticism by European leaders. The UK threatened to cut back on its long-standing defense alliance with Trump, and Germany suggested openly that the importance of its relationship with the U.S. was declining, it noted. Analysis. America's main allies are abandoning Trump as threats to world leaders backfire. Trump's brazen American First foreign policy was bound to backfire. The mystery is how long it's taken. This can be attributed to a certain interior in the relationship between Washington and its allies in Europe and elsewhere. The Western Alliance, with few exceptions, had held fast for 7 decades following World War II, and it would take considerable effort to derail it. When Trump came along, about the sentiment was this too will pass, but his egregious behavior has only intensified, leaving allies in Europe and the Middle East no option but to push back. So you can see how all these allies hate the whore, hate America. Hence, the big three in Europe, the UK, Germany, and France, as well as erstwhile allies Turkey and Iraq, are looking for alternatives to the fickle U.S. under Trump, he said. Much, however, depends on whether Trump survives the impending impeachment trial and is able to win re-election. If so, the unraveling of the Western Alliance should continue apace. Trump will feel vindicated and most likely double down on his policies both at home and abroad, he stated. So, pretty much, though, the days of U.S. global hegemony are numbered, the analyst noted. So that's just it. America's losing its hegemony, and people are no longer threatened, and the fact that Iran has been able to make a very good retaliatory, which has killed people, by the way, but they don't really want you to know about that, because that's deemed as hate speech. So I really shouldn't be fucking talking about that, right? They want to take down my video, but I don't give a shit, because of the fact that I know I'm doing my job, I know I'm going out there and teaching, and I know that this word that I speak, as well as many others speak, is getting to Esau. So go ahead, take it down. We'll just build another. Wait, there's still more in the news. Turkey deploys more militants from Syria to Libya, more terrorist groups, the so-called Al-Nusra Front and all these other proxies, to Libya to help protect Tripoli-based GNA report. So, pretty much, though, they're invading Libya. They've been invading Libya for some time. And again, Gomer and all his bands have pretty much, here it is. Roughly 2,000 members of Turkish-backed Takfiri terrorist groups in Syria have reportedly arrived in Libya to fight on the battlefields in support of the embattled Tripoli-based government of national accord. Informed sources requesting anonymity told Syria's official news agency that more than 1,700 Turkish proxies who have been accused of war crimes and human rights abuses while fighting on behalf of Ankara in northern Syria had recently reached the North African country to come to the aid of Libyan Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj in the face of months-long campaign by his rival renegade military commander Khalifa Haftar. So, they're trying to get involved in the politics going on there because, of course, Gomer and all his bands have interest in Libya. The sources added that the Turkish forces continue to recruit Takfiri militants in the Kurdish-populated city of Afrin and other areas in northern Syria to send them to Libya. British daily newspaper The Guardian reported on Wednesday that some 650 fighters from the Turkish-backed militant outfits in Syria are in Libya already, and a further 1,350 crossed to Turkey in January to support the Tripoli government. And these are the so-called, Syrian Democratic Forces. Hey? Media reports said that Turkey had begun sending militants from Syria to the North African country after Libya's GNA and Ankara signed security and maritime agreements back in late November last year on paving the way for the Turkish troop deployment. Libya Eastern-based parliament later voted unanimously against the deals. So you can see, though, that pretty much the terrorism is now being brought to Libya. Yeah. Because, of course, they still, have back deals with Russia, and Russia, is dealing with Syria, so now they have interest in Libya. Same terrorists. It would be a mistake of historical preparations to leave Libya at the mercy of a warlord, Keep in mind that Europe is less interested in providing military support to Libya. The obvious choice is to work with Turkey, which has already promised military assistance, Erdogan said in remarks in a column published on the Politico website. He added, "We will train Libya's security forces and help them combat terrorism, human trafficking, and other serious threats against international security." Which the hilarious thing is that all this is quite the opposite. Takfiri terrorists are quite the terrorists, and really they're not the Libyan National Army like they claim they are. They're really quite the opposite, but they go under that name. You see how Esau loves to cause confusion because, make no mistake about it, Gomer is Amalek as well. You know, that's the other half of Amalek. See, Amalek was split in twos. The half of them claimed to be Jewish, while the other half claimed to be Islamic. So that's where Gomer and all his bands really come into play. So yeah, you got Amalek against Amalek, because of course they don't like the Zionists, that being the Israeli state, and they often condemn the Israeli state, but at the same time, man, it's Amalek against Amalek. They can't even agree among each other. And that's why Gomer plays its own part, which is quite separated. They play both sides of it, and pretty much, though, you got all these proxies. The Turkish leader that warned Europe about new threats if it fails to back Libya's legitimate government, stating that the Takfiri militant groups such as Daesh and Al-Qaeda will find a fertile ground to get back on their feet. Erdogan has said Turkey would not refrain from teaching a lesson to Haftar if his eastern-based forces continue against the Tripoli-based GNA. So you see how Libya is played its role at this end times. Prophecies come into pass. As you can see, Libya is one of the ones named in Ezekiel, and Gomer and all his bands right here. Meanwhile, back in Syria, Syrian Arab Army responds to al-Nusra terrorist attack in the Idlib countryside, and you can also see the army repels the attack, pretty much. Syrian Arab Army units operate in Idlib southeastern countryside thwarted a fierce attack launched by Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists, which, you know, is Gomer and all his bands, targeting army's points in the area. Syrian Arab News Agency reporters said that the army units clashed with terrorist groups from Jabhat al-Nusra and other affiliated groups which attempted to attack the enemy's points using heavy weapons in the direction of Abu Dafish village. Army units inflicted heavy losses upon the attacking terrorist groups as a number of armored vehicles from them were destroyed in a parallel with conducting rocket and artillery strikes against the terrorist supply lines in the area, the reporter added. So, pretty much, though, you know, you can see Gomer and all his bands are losing in Syria, so now they want to, of course, continue in Libya. Libya and all of them, you know, as the prophecy says. But wait, there's more. And this one in from Zero Hedge. U.S. forces intense showdown with Russian convoy on blocked Syrian highway. An extremely dangerous and rare incident played out in northeast Syria between the conflict two most powerful rival forces on Saturday when opposing American and Russian military convoys encountered each other on a highway. So you can see, though, that Magog, being a guard unto them, is taking down the whore Babylon the Great. The incident was filmed and published online by anti-Assad opposition group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which described a major traffic jam outside the city of Al-Makaya, an oil-producing area of the country which has been occupied by the U.S. terrorists. SOHR said the busy highway was halted after the U.S. terrorists prevented a Russian patrol from continuing its way to the countryside of Al-Makah city. Though not previously clear which convoy was the aggressor side from the video on which caused the blockage, needless to say, it was a tense and politically potentially explosive encounter given Moscow seeing U.S. presence in Syria as illegal and as an act of military aggression. Well, of course it is. You know, they're stealing the oil from Syria. They're looting from Syria. While Washington in turn sees Russian troops as enemies bolstering Assad and Iran in the Middle East. Well, of course they're going to back Syria and Iran. Iran has always been an ally of Russia. Other regional outlets, for example in Turkish media, also blame the U.S. side for maneuvering to block the Russian troops' advance. Yeah, because Gomer's also against the U.S. And other reports, the Russian patrol was blocked from going near a key oil field in the area. So, yeah, and there's a little bit of the map of the area there, so you can see it's at the very top point near Gomer, and getting closer to Iraq as well. Meanwhile, Russian-based military analyst Mark Slaughter pointed out just how many things could have gone wrong in the intense encounter. Yeah, and this thing's only going to escalate. Imagine how close this was to an international incident between nuclear-armed great powers involving uniformed soldiers coming home in body bags, he commented on Twitter. Yeah, and this thing eventually will go nuclear. But before that, the mark of the beast has to be made mandatory. Well, if you haven't been watching Chris Green as of lately, man, he's out there and he's saying, hey, man, we're moving towards a cashless society. He's constantly promoting Bitcoin, as an alternative. But it's not an alternative because, again, that's going to be controlled and regulated by the computers, which is what is the mark of the beast? It's a computer chip. It's a computer chip that they control. Esau controls the internet. Everybody knows that. So of course, you take a microchip and you get into that system, you're totally controlled by Esau. And then when you get out of line, they can just shut your chip up. That's what they want, is total control. No more buying and selling or trading without their approval. That's what this is really about, and that also has to do with hegemony. So you can see, though, that pretty much, though, there's just a few more steps. And this thing's going to go full-blown. So, anyhow, I'll get back on the camera in a minute here. Just going through some articles. Well, again, they're trying to shut this down. So, like everything else, though, subscribe to my back channels. I have Israelite, Foreigner, Redding, 2 channel, as well as Israelite, as well as Confusion of Face Redding, which that one's about to go down completely, and I'll put a message on there tomorrow. I think that the 2-week suspension is over tomorrow. We'll just find out, because I looked at the last video that went on there, and it says it's 2 weeks old. So anyhow, I believe that the second strike was on January 6th, so tomorrow's January 20. So anyhow, that's what's going on here, and I'll be back after some other edifying videos.
Shalom, giving all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. And as this year has been coined by Apostle Tahar, the year of prophecy, it is kicking it off exactly in that spirit. Prophecy is being fulfilled at a rapid rate. As you can see, this is off of a website called businessinsider.com, and it says the UK is abandoning its alliance with Trump as United States withdraws from its leadership around the world. All right, so as you can see, the UK, which is Britain, is withdrawing from the United States, man. They're abandoning their alliance with Trump as the United States withdraws from its leadership around the world, man. Because as you can see, Babylon the Great is being isolated. And according to prophecy, the UK birthed Babylon the Great, because if you remember the Revolutionary Wars, which we'll get that in prophecy. As a matter of fact, we'll start off with that and then we'll get to it. This is Daniel, the 7th chapter and the 8th verse. All right, and this is a lot of history written in just a few verses, man. Okay, in the how America celebrates its independence. Well, the scriptures prophesied Babylon the Great getting its independence, man. Okay, this is Daniel 7 and 8, and this is speaking of that fourth beast, that fourth horn, which is the Roman Empire, which we're living in the last leg of the Roman Empire. This is Daniel, all right, chapter 7. As a matter of fact, I'll start at 7. It says, "And after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly." This is speaking of the Roman Empire. "And it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns." And the way it was diverse was they had a senate in which they voted in a leader, whereas kingdoms in prior times, the king would give his throne to his son. All right. But the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, you had the Senate and all of those various different things, and then the 10 horns are the vassal states, what makes it a beast system. Okay, and then as you go down, it says, "And I considered the horns, and behold," all right, because as he considered them, according to prophecy, the Roman Empire eventually fell. All right, and then for 1,000-year period, all right, you had the Byzantine Empire, in which Jake was ruling, man. Then you had the Renaissance period, and then the whole Roman Empire was rebirthed, all right, through Babylon the Great, the NATO, and the EU. Okay, "And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, all right, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the root." And those 3 first horns are the French, the Spanish, and then you have the British. And America came out of the British. As you read in prophecy, the Britain is that 7th horn, that spoken of in Revelation, the 17th chapter. And out of British was birthed what? The 13 colonies, which eventually became Babylon the Great. Okay, so this right here is prophecy of the Revolutionary Wars, man. Okay, from before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the root. That's the Revolutionary Wars. All right, the Spanish, the French, and the British. Okay, and then America, which is that other little horn, was birthed, which that's where the end is going to come through, and we're right there. Now, as you can see, there's friction going on amongst these particular nations right as we speak, as we're reading this article. What is it saying? The UK, Britain, is abandoning its alliance with Trump as the United States withdraws from its leadership around the world. And there's another prophecy in Jeremiah we'll get real quick. It says the UK threatens to tear up its defense alliance with the U.S. after Trump's Iran crisis triggers a rupture between the two countries. So basically, they're ashamed of the U.S. Okay, they're ashamed of what they have birthed. All right. It says UK's Defense Secretary Ben Wallace says that the UK is looking to forge stronger alliances with other international partners which share its priorities. Now, the thing about that is, where is Britain going to go? Because if you remember, while Britain was before the 13 colonies, what was Britain doing, man? In the name of Darwinism, going around the planet Earth, stealing, robbing, killing. You don't think India remembers what the British did? You don't think these Hamitic African, so-called African countries don't remember what the Britain did to them? Because Britain did a whole hell of a lot of wickedness as well, man, in the name of Darwinism, man. Colonizing. You don't remember the colonial period? So here it is, Britain think they're gonna, separate from the United States, Babylon the Great, which that's their baby. All right. But where the hell are they gonna go? These other countries go turn on their asses too, man. Okay. UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace says that UK is looking to forge stronger alliances with other international partners which share its priorities. All right. And then you got to understand, as you remember, there was an article that came out last year. I believe brothers did videos on it. I know I did one, where these countries, because who has all of the gold? The Britain. UK has all of the gold, man. And these countries are seeking to withdraw their gold from that, man, from them. Okay, because you have the UK is pretty much the financial power of this whole beast system, man. Okay? It says, he says the U.S. risks withdrawing from its leadership of the world under Trump because, as the prophecy said, his look will be more stout than his fellows, man. As a matter of fact, let's see, verse 20. Daniel 7:20, and the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, before whom the 3 fell, all right, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things. And this is speaking of Babylon the Great, okay, America, whose look was more stout than his fellows. See, his look is more stout than his fellows, and it's causing friction, man, under Trump. And what better so-called leader to put in there, which the Most High through Yahweh Shai is bad, man. They understood, that Trump would be the perfect person to put in to fulfill this whole more stout than his fellows prophecy, man. Okay? And Babylon the Great is doing exactly what the prophecy said it would be doing, man. Okay, there as the UK says, U.S. risk withdrawing from its leadership around the world. Okay, Wallace also reveals Trump threatened to tear up its intelligence sharing relationships with the UK, because basically America is just talking all sorts of shit, man, and leading these different nations that are aligned with them into wars that they don't want to be a part of. They're striking people who these other countries are having deals with. America's just losing their goddamn mind, man. More stout than his fellows, as I brought out in the last video I did. As the scriptures say, travel not with a bold fellow, right? Because you're gonna perish with him in his foolishness if you travel with him, man. Like, you go to the bar, you go somewhere, and you got a friend that's always starting shit with everybody. Well, you don't want to travel with that guy. Well, that's America in this whole beast system, man. Okay? It says Donald Trump's decision to assassinate Qasem Soleimani has triggered a major rupture between the United States and its historically closest ally in the United Kingdom, the UK. Okay? In remarkably outspoken comments, UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace said that on Sunday that Trump's isolationist foreign policy, all right, meant that UK was now looking for alternative allies around the world. Okay? I worry if the United States withdraws from its leadership around the world, he told Sunday Times. He added, the assumptions of 2010 that we were always going to be a part of a U.S. coalition is really just not where we are going to be. It says the comments came after Boris Johnson's government distanced itself from the attack last week. You see that? They distanced themselves from Babylon the Great because of what they did over in Iran. It says, with the UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab labeling it a dangerous escalation, okay, which risked a conflict in which terrorists would only be the winners. You see that? It says a spokesman for the Prime Minister was also quick to condemn Trump's threats to target Iranian cultural sites as a breach in international law and a potential war crime. See that? With Iran crisis ongoing, the UK is now openly threatening to tear up its long-standing defense partnership with the United States. Now let's get Jeremiah, the 50th chapter. Jeremiah 50 and 12. Jeremiah 50 and 12. Jeremiah 50, this is speaking of Babylon the Great. I started 11. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage. And this is speaking to Babylon, man. Through that horn, we will war out, man. You know, that war, that horn, Babylon the Great, made serious war with the saints. All right, it says, because ye are grown as fat as the heifer at grass and as the bellow at bulls, man. Your mother, which is British, that's the Britain, man, okay, who birthed the United States, shall be confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. You see that? And right now, as you can see, the UK is ashamed at what Babylon the Great is doing. Okay? She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, and what is this going to lead to? Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, which is Babylon the Great, a dry land and a desert. But as I just said, Britain has to watch out as well, because they've done a lot of wickedness to these heathen, man. Okay, in the name of Darwinism. We haven't forgot. Okay? The colonial period, man, in which you just went and stole all of these Hamitic lands, all of these Indian lands, and did wickedness all over the earth, man. Japan, China. Okay, Britain has their hand up in all of that, man. Okay, Esau, Edom. So as they're talking about, they're going to withdraw from Babylon the Great and make alliances with these other countries. These other countries got their mind on what your asses did too. You damn Edomites, man. So you Edomites are in trouble. Now, as the scriptures say in prophecy, man, at the very end of your rulership, okay, these different alliances wouldn't stand, man. This is let's see here. Daniel chapter 2 and 40. In the fourth kingdom, which is ultimately the Roman Empire, and then eventually it will be rebirthed through Babylon the Great, the NATO, the EU, and these different alliances we see. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron breaketh all these, that breaketh all these shall break in pieces and bruise, man. And they did bruise. Who did they mainly bruise? You Israelites, man. But they bruised all nations, man. They took down all of the different nations, man. Okay? But the main nation that they got, because this is basically Esau's blessing. When you read Genesis, the 27th chapter, Esau was given the fatness of the earth. Well, it will be through this fourth beast that he got that, man. Okay? That little horn that was birthed out of that fourth beast. Okay? It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, meaning the very end of it, okay, part potter's clay and part iron. You see, it's part clay and it's part iron, man. The kingdom shall be divided. They're divided, man. And this is how you know we're at the very, very end of Esau's rulership, man, because they are a kingdom divided. As the scriptures say, if Satan be divided against Satan, then how can his kingdom stand? And we're seeing that play out right before our eyes, man. It says the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, because they still militarily have power. All right, but politically they don't agree. Financially they don't agree. Economically they don't agree. That you got particular allies of the whole beast system making deals with Russia, which Trump is condemning, but nobody wants to listen to America no more. Now you got UK, America's closest ally, saying we got to distance ourselves from this bastard. So America's being surrounded, okay, and you Edomites are playing right in the prophecy, and you don't even know that you're setting yourself up for destruction, man. You getting ready to be destroyed, buddy. All right? So all we got to do is just ride the wave, man. It says, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so shall the kingdom be partly strong and partly broken, man. And this kingdom is broken, man. It's partly strong. Of course, militarily they're strong, but they're politically, they're economically, and all of these various different things that they have going on, they're broken. They're mixed on opinions. You got one that don't want to do this, one that wants to do that. You can see all of these European countries are angry at Trump for what he did over in Iran in murdering that leader, you see. And this is only going to cause other heathen nations to join alliances and form their own beast system and strike Babylon the Great, as prophecy said, man. It says, whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, make particular deals, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So Right now, we're seeing that these different alliances and agreements that they've made, different nuclear deals, whatever, it's not working out. Prophecy has it to where now they're not agreeing on everything that they thought they would agree on to keep their power, man. Okay, and what's next? And in these days, the king, these kings shall, and in the day of these kings, all right, these heathen nations, which ultimately is led by Esau, Edom, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It's going to be for the Israelites. No other nation will reign, all right, or be an ally with us in our kingdom, man. Okay. No heathen nation will have the law, statutes, and commandments written in them, which is the covenant for the Israelites. It says, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and shall stand forever. And this is what's getting ready to be set up, the kingdom of heaven. So the Lord has the government of these heathen nations, all right, not agreeing, man. Okay. But right here, you can see the mother of Babylon the Great, which is UK, is ashamed. It's ashamed of her doings, man. Okay? Let's see here. It says the UK is now openly threatening to tear up its long-standing defense partnership with the United States. So we're seeing it. Then you hear about the Brexit, which the brother Elder Require Kwam, he goes into that all the time, man. You know, GMS Fear the Most High 7. Now, a lot of those videos he did were deleted because Esau Edom took down his page, but that brother always goes in on that. He has a very good understanding on that. He's over there in the UK, you see. So be looking out to that brother's page, GMS Fear the Most High 7 Ba. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be going into this as well, because we talked about it earlier, man. Okay, UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace told Sunday Times that the UK was increasingly looking for an alternative international allies. You see that? And the allies that they're going to seek, they're going to want to destroy Babylon the Great, man. And then they're going to want to destroy your ass, man. Look, like I said, the UK has done a lot of bullshit, man. I'm talking about they've become billionaires off of off of the soil and dust of these Hamitic nations and different other nations, man. Okay, I'm trying to think of the word, man. You know, like copper. You know, you have particular things that Africa and these different countries are rich in, and this is how Esau Edom has got to the top, through going to these other lands and possessing and stealing resources. That's the word I'm looking for. You see? Resources, man. I was just watching a documentary, man, on how they stole Zambia. You know, Zambian, you know, those are Jakes, those are Israelites, a lot of them over there in Africa, but they're rich in copper. Well, Esau Edom went over there and stole every goddamn thing, set up shop. Now the air's all polluted, and all Zambia is known for is rock, Zambian rock music, which that shit is jamming, and those are Jakes. But here it is, they're rich in copper and resources, but they're not benefit from it. Why? Because Esau Edom, the UK. So you're not gonna get away either, man. But the Lord is gonna use you in prophecy as well to be ashamed and ultimately aid these heathen nations in destroying Babylon the Great, man. It says UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace told Sunday Times that the UK was increasingly looking for an alternative international allies. Over the last year, we've had the US pull out from Syria, the statement by Donald Trump on Iraq, where he said NATO should take over and do more in the Middle East for their purpose. You see that? See, NATO's tired of Babylon. Everybody's tired of you bastards, man. But we love it because it's all prophecy, man. Wallace said, the assumptions of 2010 that we're always going to be a part of the coalition is really just not where we're going to be. Okay? Let's see here. It says, Wallace said the UK would need to reduce its dependence on U.S. military assets. The beast system is breaking up, basically. We are very dependent on American air cover and American intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets. We need to diversify our assets, meaning make alliances with other countries, man, because Babylon is leading them to more and more hell, man. That's that bold fellow, more stout than its fellows, man. Wallace told the paper that the UK would increasingly need to turn to other allies that more closely share the UK's interests. So the UK and Babylon are breaking up, man, basically. It says, regardless of what the US does, we are going to have to make decisions that allow us to stand with the range of allies with Five Eyes intelligence partners with America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. All right? And our European allies where our interests converge, he said. And what's happening over in Australia is because you Edomites stole that. Australia is on fire because you Edomites stole that from the Japhetic people, man. So it's good that that's happening, man. Although you see the clips and you see particular animals, well, that's all prophecy, man. That's all prophecy. So you Edomites system is collapsing and falling, and ultimately what it's going to lead to is what's written in Revelation, let's see here, 17th chapter, man. Revelation, the 17th chapter, man. Okay? Revelation 17, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire, man. Okay? Through these different alliances that are going to be made outside of America's interest, man. Okay? And it says, for God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and agree to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Lord be fulfilled. So they've agreed to give their kingdom to the beast for the interest of America, all right, for the interest of Babylon the Great. But now that the words of the Lord are being fulfilled, all right, they're having different opinions and different, alliances going on outside of America's interest, man. Because as you can see, the interest of America is leading these nations into a war that they don't want to be a part of, man. But I just wanted to bring that out. Hopefully I'll edify it. Shalom.
The fake news media and their Democrat partners are working hard to determine whether or not the future attack by terrorist Soleimani was imminent or not, and was my team in agreement. The answer to both is a strong yes, but it doesn't really matter because of his horrible past.
We have Trump speaking up on social media and saying that it doesn't really matter whether or not Qasem Soleimani actually represented a threat to Americans because he was a bad fellow who had a bad past. Since Qasem Soleimani was killed by the United States has been emphasizing that Qasem Soleimani was bad, that he represented an imminent threat to the United States.
We killed Soleimani, the #1 terrorist in the world by every account. Bad person.
There's no terrorist except Osama bin Laden who has more American blood on his hands than did Qasem Soleimani.
There's a compelling case of an imminent threat.
Imminent threat?
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel.
Ever since the killing, many, both in the United States and around the world, have questioned whether it was the right thing to do. Many saw it as a hugely unnecessary escalation with the Islamic Republic of Iran, a completely unjustified killing of a top general of a foreign country. The Trump administration insists that American lives were in danger.
They have large-scale attacks planned for other embassies, and if those were planned, why can't we reveal that to the American people? Wouldn't that help your case?
I can reveal that I believe it would have been 4 embassies.
However, even Trump's own Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, doesn't exactly buy that.
Well, the president didn't say there was a tangible, he didn't cite a specific piece of evidence. What he said is he believed.
Are you saying there wasn't one?
I didn't see one with regard to 4 embassies.
Pretty dramatic statement from the American leader, essentially saying that it doesn't matter if American lives were in the balance, it was justified to kill the top general of a foreign country. It's not necessary that they actually represent a threat as long as they had a history of bad deeds or a bad past.
U.S. administration's policies is not based on facts, it's based on lies and misstatements, and it's not based on the international rule of law. It's based on two other things. One is the view that the U.S. is an exceptional country, that it is above international law, it doesn't have to pay attention to the rules, and it's also based on the false notion that the U.S. is the only superpower in a unipolar world. U.S. administrations still act as if they are the cops of the world, they are the bullies on the block, and they can take whatever actions that they feel are appropriate for them, irrespective of international law.
And so it's only been like a couple weeks into this year of prophecy, and as you can see, though, it is speaking more and more. We're almost at the end of this thing, to where the only thing that really now has to pass, but you're hearing more and more about the cashless societies, you know, which there are plenty of videos up about that. So, you know that with ID 2020 out there, you know, and the fact that, you know, you have to now have real ID, you know, and eventually they're going to make it where you can't even have the federal non-compliant ID. But for right now, you know, still, the fact is, though, is that everything's going to be replaced by the microchip very shortly here. You can't even adopt a pet that ain't microchipped, and people are already used to chipping their pets, so they would chip their kids. I mean, you got Brooke Shields out there saying that she would chip her kids. And people will buy into the system because they bought into all the other philosophies. I mean, look at how long our people, which includes us, yes, we the elect, before we came to this truth, we all thought that the image of Caesar Borgia was actually the son of the Most High. We were led to believe that. You know, that the so-called Jews were white as well, that the white was the superior race. Now coming to find out that they're the least among all the other nations. That the dark races are, in fact, the ones that are superior. You know, and I'm not talking about Hamites. I'm talking about you know, what Esau likes to deem as black, Negroes, you know, that we're the ones that are superior. So it's no wonder why he has oppressed us in such a way that, you know, he makes us look small. Because if he could do it to the head tribe, the tribe of Yehudah, well, you know, how much more can he do it to the other tribes, you know? And people love their Donald Trump, you know, because, of course, you know, he's coming down hard against Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and has spewed out this rhetoric. And at the same time, he's fucking off all the allies. We definitely believe, though, that he will win re-election, no doubt. And that this whole impeachment thing is just a waste of time. I wouldn't even bother. Yeah, I'll catch feeds here and there, but you know as well as I do, though, that that's all a dog and pony show. But the things to really pay attention to are, of course, what's going on that they don't want you to know about. You know, if you hear about false flag shootings or gun takeaways. I mean, that's going on in the state of Vagina. You know, they're taking away fucking guns from the people. And boy, these Edomites hate losing their fucking guns, you know, because that's all they do is stick to their guns, you know. And you got Eminem out there advocating for gun control. So, you know, of course, the celebrities are going to promote gun control, you know, which is they doing the bidding of Amalek. Because, of course, Amalek wants everyone disarmed. Because they're going to send in the Army After Next, which is UN, which is what Jade Helm was an acronym for. Back when you remember the 2015 Jade Helm drills, well, you know, they're no longer doing drills. They're now actually doing it. Gun confiscation is going on. So this will make people less resistant to it, you know, the takeover. Because the UN will be taking over the U.S. very shortly here. And all these nations are going to hate the whore. The beast shall hate the whore. And that is, you're seeing it. The hegemony is no longer a threat. These countries ain't worried about sanctions anymore. Because, of course, they're sick of the U.S. bullshit. And like everything else, though, those of us that aren't with them, where our videos are going to be taken down from YouTube, and, well, we still have Daily Motion platform, and we'll just go on there. So I highly recommend that everybody subscribe to my Daily Motion channel as well. You can look it up. Israelite Foreigner Rating on Daily Motion. It should come up there. You know, and like everything else, though, we'll just see how long the suspension is lifted tomorrow. You know, because I'll re-upload the camp video I did on Friday to see how well that goes in, and provide links to everybody to subscribe there, to subscribe to this channel, because this one's going to be the main channel. But it's already got a warning on there because of the fact that I was reading the news articles and relaying them to the scriptures. It was deemed as hate speech. Well, that's just it, though. This word has hurt Esau. And it's good to see him finally suffer for everything that he's done. For that, I want to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba. Death to America, and death to you red Hebrew Edomites. Shalom.